Kick a bitch out like Toodles. Lost on my plate, came a long way from noodles. My pockets getting bigger than a sumo. Baby Sasuke, whipping that Naruto. Clap it up, give a young nigga kudos. I remember I was with your bitch, she was cooling you. She was kicking shit with me like judo. Knock it out the park, home run, Opera pools. She ain't never been to Pluto. Young niggas stay in the same drama. Fucking on another nigga, baby mama. Got a hood bitch named Shayana. Got a Draco, the A with the K out of it. I shoot the 3 like I'm Ray out of it. Ayy, the trap, I can't stay out of it. My niggas, they used to pray out of it. Yeah. We got all the bands, I turned to a bandage, yeah. I just popped the app and I'm not landing, yeah. I just know she bad and she's a savage. Everything I do is outstanding. Everything on me, Balenci. This Rolly don't do no tick-ticky. My diamonds hit back like a frisbee. And none of my bitches is picky. Patting love on my coupe like it's Missy. I might just go cop a new cola set. Fuck on your bitch and put that hoe to bed. These niggas broke, no, they don't got no bread. I didn't carry the game, I ain't weak in my legs. What? Weak in my legs, like with your bitch head. Fucking your hoe and she giving me head. After I'm done, put that little bitch to bed. Heard what I said. Hold up, I'm shooting, I pull up a sniper. My boy pull up and he shooting a rifle. We smash out and swerve in the Viper. My jacket made out of tiger. My car's made out carbon fiber. Foreign, we pull up beside you. Bitch, we done shot up the ops. Them niggas dead on the rifle.
Might as well go out of space on these hoes. Might as well go out of space. Tell me when you ready. Yeah, tell me when you ready. Yeah. Push the Rolls Royce like a Chevy. And I got a horse like Billy Ray Cyrus. Bando, I'm having a siege with the Draco sliding. Young them came through, sped up the spot. Here, kaboom, everything here sirens. Running around like Boston, Georgia, Diego, I can't hide it. Started out running with the goonies, I got on style, niggas styling. Should've put your bitch in the boonies when you can't find her, cause when we found her. I know I'm going berserko, that's for a shirt ski, look at my shirt. I know I'm going satin silk, Hermes on my curtains, yeah. Bust out my gets, put on my wrist and my chest, I'm against some winch. Garment correct, you already know how niggas coming to drum all the 50. Turn up, yeah. Gotta keep that drink, tell me when you ready, yeah. Diamonds out baguettes, yeah. Got a badass bitch, I took from a lane, shot the light hedges, I line that shit up like Ed. I wrap the bill up like a present. I think my side been tryna go steady. I put these carrots on my ring, ain't tryna marry no bitch till I'm ready. Man, that pretty little shit I done stabbed in it. Hit the Dougie in it, then I dabbed in it. A stallion, Drake the medallion, doing a Ferrari Italian. I'm out of here, all the way out of here, baby Pluto, all the way out of here. I'm styling you, baby, I'm styling you, lacing you up in designer gear. I'm proud of you, nigga, you dropping them batters, you get you a bird membership. A gang of niggas gon' go up when I go up, I can't forget them.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy Kai Sage here, bringing you back another video. This is the long-awaited Magicka Necromancer PvP build. I haven't put one of these out for about a year, and that's because my break, along with just because I haven't really played a lot of Macro. I've been playing a lot of Stamcro this time around, and I was really struggling to find a build this patch specifically, and so long story short, I kind of gave up on it for a little while. Unfortunately, Macro doesn't have a ton of build options, honestly. It's pretty limited, but I was able to find a build specifically with weights, with Mundus, with glyphs, down to the T, what I feel works the best for Macro. Honestly, pretty much any other build I've tried outside of this one just didn't work. As you can see from the gameplay, this build hits crazy hard. It has good sustain and solid tankiness. The problem with Macro, and if you're trying to build one for yourself, you can't have everything. You'll always be losing out on something. There's builds that will have great damage, but the sustain will be a little lackluster and you'll be a squish ball. Or you'll be super tanky and you'll have no damage to kill anyone. So Macro has been a very difficult class to build for, and it's honestly, I'm very happy to have finally found a build that's suitable for at least my playstyle. Now, I will be honest, this is a Harmony build. If you're playing Macro without the Harmony Grave Robber synergy, you are just fucking playing yourself. Don't be a crazy person and run Macro without Harmony. It is an absolute waste of time. I'm just telling you right now. Could it be done? Obviously, it could be done. Is it efficient? No. So, take that with a grain of salt as you will. I'll be kind of going over everything down to the T with this build. And yeah, so without any further ado, let's go ahead and hop in. So the first set we're running is Dagon's. So if you don't know what Dagon's does, basically it just adds 500 weapon and spell damage to your area of effect abilities. With this build, there's not a single skill that isn't AoE other than degen. I'll get to that when I get to the skills. So pretty much everything I have is being buffed by this. As you can see, weapon spell damage on the 2 and the 4 piece is amazing, and then the max stam, that can never hurt as well either. Back bar set is Rallying Cry. Now, I know this build is pretty basic, but the thing is that trying to find sets that are low-key and don't really work that well, or they just get outperformed by the top tier like meta sets. So I know Dagon's isn't necessarily something people run a lot, but Rallying Cry I know is very popular. It is what it is. The main thing is with Crow is running light armor. I noticed to be the most effective, especially for sustain, because Magicka Necromancer sustain is horrible. So being able to run this and having light armor is going to be is what makes this build so good. So we're also running Baylorgs. So this just basically when you use ult, you get a ton of damage and pen. So as you can see, the consistent piece of this build is that I am running everything damage. That is because Macro is a pure burst class, and you need all the damage that you can get. Everything you run should have to deal with damage, or give you some type of damage buff. That's the best way to build Crow, in my opinion. We're also running the one-piece trainee, of course. We're running this reinforced. As you can see, the head here was well fitted. I'm running 5 light, 1 medium, and 1 heavy. So light shoulders, well fit, sturdy, well fit, and well fit. So I like the 1 sturdy piece because I do block a lot, but I noticed that with coil specifically, which I will get to when I get to the skills, I don't really need that much stam sustain because I have a lot of it with that. So the sturdy isn't that big of a deal, but the roll dodge, those cost a lot if you don't have a lot of well fitted. You don't need any impen for this build because Rallying Cry is covering all of your crit resist, so you are good to go with that. Gotta have the Guild Tabber Adversity Gang because it's just what makes you an OG. We're running Harmony, like I said. We're running 1 mag recovery glyph and 2 spell damage. Last but not least, we're running the Death Dealer's Fate Mythic. This basically just gives you max stats. I found this to be better. In some of the clips, I will be honest, I am running Markin in some of those clips. As I've tested more, Death Dealers is a little bit better. It gives you better sustain, and it gives you pretty much the same damage. Ring of Markin is pretty underwhelming. Nowadays, to be honest, it kind of just makes your stat sheet look a little prettier, but Death Dealer's Fate is legit, so highly recommend running this. But Ring of Markin does work as well. Definitely do not go Ring of Markin because critting, you'll need your crit damage. So only these 2 mythics is really all I would recommend. Sea Serpent Coil is a big no because you run Harmony with this build, and since you can't run any Swift, you are insanely slow, and I don't recommend playing like that. So this is the build. Here's what the character sheet looks like. So, as you can see, recovery is looking really solid. Spell damage isn't super high, but if you watch the gameplay, you can see that I have a spell damage tracker in the bottom right of my screen, and you'll be able to see my spell damage gets really high. I won't be able to show you everything fully buffed just because I'm not out in Cyrodiil, and I won't be able to proc Rallying Cry, but I can show you kind of what it looks like. We're running 50 points mag, and we're running 14 points health. Reason why is because we want our health to be decent because we are pretty squishy on this build even with Rallying Cry, so that's the reason for that. We're running Smoked Bear Haunch. This is the best food. You pretty much don't want to go with anything else. This is just OP. We are running the Atro, and we are Vampire Stage 3. This is essential if you're going to run this light armor. If you wanted to run this medium, so 5-1-1, the medium way, highly recommend you knock this down to stage 1 or you don't be a vamp at all because sustain is pretty impossible in medium armor as a vamp stage 3. So last but not least, we'll hop into skills. So we'll start with the front bar. I'm running Scythe. This is my spammable. It's in every single clip, so don't tell me that Scythe does not smack. Every single gameplay clip you seen, I had Scythe on. Scythe, the reason why I use this is because it's the 1 spammable that actually gets buffed by Dagon's. You could use like Pulsar and shit if you wanted to run like the Lightning Staff version of this build, but the dual wield Ice Staff is what's going to hit the hardest. We're running Camo Hunter. So this is a flex spot. Right here you can run Caltraps. You could run, if you run the medium armor setup, you could run a Lude right here. You can pretty much run whatever you want, but I realize that camo is what absolutely hits the hardest. This even hits harder than breach, in my opinion. I've ran caltraps here, and the better thing about this is that you get passive damage on top of the extra crit, which is really nice, and you get the minor berserk if you're able to flank. So all around, this just gives way more damage than even caltraps does, and you don't have to cast it. So all around, just better for your sustain, and it is more damage, as I said. And with cleanses especially being so common nowadays, caltraps can just get ran out of and cleansed pretty easily. So yeah, Boneyard. So this is what's getting the big boy damage. This is the Grave Robber synergy, and this is why we run Harmony. Absolutely essential. Run this. Please don't be stupid and not run this. Like, you just look like a crazy person out here with no graveyard. Like, seriously. Blast Bones, obvious. You don't take this off. Degen, this is how we're getting our sorcery. This could be a flex spot if you want to run spell power pots. I'll be honest, Xene, I highly recommend you run tripots and you run this instead, but if for whatever reason you wanted to put something else on, you could take this off and just run the spell powers. We're running Dawnbreaker as the ultimate. Macro doesn't really have that many good ultimates. Unless you're running Dark Convergence, the Colossus is super inconsistent. So Dawnbreaker is going to be your best bet by far. I don't really recommend taking this off. You can run Meteor, I guess, if you want, but then you won't have a stun at all. I guess if you were going to run Meteor, you'd want to replace Camo Hunter with the unblockable stun. So either Totem, which is very inconsistent, or Fighter's Guild Fear, which will eat up your stamina. So all around, this is what I think the best setup is, but you can change it as you want. Back bar, we don't really have any flex spots back here. The only thing is you could probably run Vigor here instead of Coil. Mender, for obvious reasons. Intensive Mender doesn't heal for as much anymore, so you want to run Spirit Guardian now, because it just makes you really tanky and it's nice. Armor, for obvious reasons. Resistant Flesh, this is your burst heal. Coil, like I said, you could run Vigor here if you want, but Coil not costing anything, and also giving you that stam sustain, also giving you increased healing on the back bar. You just can't beat it. It makes your Resistant Flesh hit harder. Race Against Time, it's your snare removal, it's your speed, it's all that. In some of the clips, you'll see I'm running Barrier. So the reason why I'm running Barrier is because of, let me show you real quick. So in the support line, you get an extra 10% mag recovery if you have a support ability slotted. So I was just running it for some group utility and to have a little bit more mag recovery on the back bar. Temporal Guard is just as good, I feel like. So, oops, sorry about that. Run whatever you want. But that's why I was running Barrier in some of the clips, in case you were wondering. The shield on Barrier is really trash, though, so it kind of gets ripped off in like 2 seconds. So I don't really recommend you use this for real, but if you're having trouble sustaining at all in this build, run this. This helps with sustain a lot. But if you want to be a little tankier, Temporal Guard is going to be your best bet. Go ahead and hop into the champion points, and I always forget, but I'm not going to forget this time. I am a Breton. Breton is essential for this build specifically. I know a lot of people love to do the Khajiit thing where they run the crit builds and shit, but Breton is the best in my opinion. The Khajiit critical builds are kind of just too, if you run mechanical, they're a little bit too foretelling, and it's pretty easy to get your burst kind of blocked and shit because everybody knows when it's coming. Versus this, you can catch people off guard very easily. And if you don't run mechanical, you're pretty much relying on crits and you have no damage unless you crit. Obviously, this has damage whether you crit or not. So that's my thoughts on the crit build real quick, and that's why I am not a Khajiit. So let's go and hop into the champion. So the champion, there's a flex spot in the blue tree specifically. Focus Mending, highly recommend you have this. 10% healing, can't beat it. It's amazing. Damage done with the AoE, so this is just buffing basically what Dagon's is giving us, and giving us even more damage to all our AoEs. Occult Overload. So macro needs to be played a little bit like a bomber. Since we're not running Vicious Death or Plague Break, we need something to kind of help finish off other people. So especially in that first clip when you see a lot of people die, a lot of people are dying to Occult Overload. So that's kind of what makes me bomb-ish, if you will. So this is an absolute necessity. This is the flex spot right here, so I just use this to increase my spell damage a little bit more. But you can run a defensive CP, so if you wanted to run something like any of these, Unassailable, Enduring Resolve, you wanted to run Ironclad or Duelist Rebuff, that's perfectly fine. I just feel like I'm tanky enough, and I don't feel like I need it. And I always, like, if I can't kill someone, I'm always wondering, like, well, what if I had a little bit more damage, you know? So I recommend Untamed Aggression, but if you feel like you need more tankiness, like I said, feel free to go ahead and throw on a defensive slottable. So in the red tree, we're running Boundless Vitality, Peace of Mind, Sustained by Suffering, and Celerity. So as I've been saying, macro sustain is really, really, really ass. So that's why I'm like going so hard into sustain. I also don't run a cleanse, so I pretty much always have negative effects on me, and I obviously don't run like Mara's or anything, so I pretty much always have negative effects on me, so this is up pretty much all the time. I have like mid 2Ks mag recovery and then like 1600 stam recovery with all of this, so all around really nice. And then I love the speed from Celerity. That's essential in Xing. I don't really have any others that I would use, but that's it. I think I pretty much covered everything. So right now I'll show you a little bit of what everything looks like buffed up. So as you can see in the bottom, I have a spell damage tracker. It's in red. I have 4.1 4.2-ish spell damage on the front bar. So basically what I like to do, kind of just to show what I have. As you see, I only have 200 ult, so I'm not going to OD with the 500 ult and shit, because obviously most times you're not going to have that. So we'll just look here, put up our coil, we'll throw that up, and then we'll throw up this. 5.2k weapon damage. Mind you, Dagon's does not go on the stat sheet. So that's kind of what we're looking at. Really solid. As you see, I have 2k sustain, 1200 stam recovery. Obviously everything dropped now, but the pen was good as well. My resistances are pretty good, especially on the back bar for wearing light armor. Crit resist is really high, especially with Riley and Cry proc. So all around, this isn't a build that's just going to carry you at all, but it is a build that's really, really good and is going to give you everything you want. And I hope the gameplay demonstrated that. I know this is simple. It's not maybe what you expected. It's not necessarily just going to be able to put it on and carry you. But, like I said, and obviously you can see in the gameplay, it is really, really good. Let me know if there's anything I didn't cover. If you have any questions about the build, I'm more than happy to answer. Please don't ask me stupid shit, though. I really don't like answering dumb questions. Watch the full video. Give it a like. Show me some love. Check out my Stamcrow video that I posted last week. Enjoy your guys' day. Have a good rest of your week. And I will see you guys next time. Later.